Should we pay our worship team members? Stay tuned. Hey, welcome to Worship Launch. My name is Zach Dietz, and today we're asking the question, should our worship team members be paid? And you might sort of be surprised by my answer today because, you'll just find out. But some of you guys in smaller churches are already going, yeah, right. Like, I don't even have a budget for one thing, and like we can hardly afford duct tape or a microphone stand. So how in the world am I going to pay worship team members? And believe me, I get that. I've been there. I've been in a place where I wasn't sure I was going to get a paycheck. And so I totally get that. But I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask before you decide if you're going to pay worship team members. And so we'll just hit them quickly. Number 1, are these people already active members or regular active attenders in my church? And the reason I say active attenders is because some churches don't offer membership, and maybe that's you. And I want to put the emphasis on active. What do I mean by that? I want to make sure those people are serving in church, whether it's in the worship ministry or in the preschool or whatever. I want to see these people involved in the church. And let me explain why. I do not suggest that you pay musicians who are coming outside of your congregation. And there are lots of reasons for this, but here I'm just going to give you one reason. They do not know the heartbeat and the vision of your church. They should immerse themselves in the culture of your church for at least a year or longer in service before you even consider paying them. And here's why. Because you risk bringing in someone who doesn't fit the culture of your team. And let's just say that you've already sort of got a worship team assembled, and they understand your culture, they understand your vision as a worship pastor, and then you bring this outside guy who you're going to pay, hasn't gone to your church previously, but you're paying him because he's super good, right? But just because he's super good, it doesn't mean that he gets the culture of your team and of your church and the heartbeat of your church. And I want those people to know I want that expectation to be set that, listen, we're a team here. So I would have them be in your church for a year or longer in service before they ever you even think about paying them. The second question I would ask is, are these people believers? Why does this matter? I actually know lots of churches these days who are allowing non-believers to play on their worship teams. And here's why I believe that is a huge, huge mistake. Number 1, we're asking these people to help lead in worship. And so how can they do that if they don't even know the God that we're singing to? I see these churches and they're asking these non-believers to come play on stage because they're super good musicians, but all they are is a warm body on stage offering tasteful music, but they do not know the God that we're singing to, and that as a worship team, we're trying to lead these people in worship to this God. And how can they attempt to do that when they don't even know him themselves? And so that's one. And I would say, by all means, man, invite them to church. Let them meet God there. But don't put them in a leadership role before they are believers. And Another reason is these people need to be discipled. If they're living a life of sin outside of the church, they are actually representatives of your church, and it potentially tarnishes your church's reputation. And I can't stress that enough. I know churches right now who have hired musicians to be on their worship team, and these guys are out partying on the weekends, getting drunk, and doing drugs. I'm telling you, I know these people, and they're doing drugs on the weekend, and then people see them on stage on Sunday, and they're like, "Whoa, wait, what?" So these people are representatives of your church, whether you know that or not. They are, because people see them outside, and it potentially tarnishes your church's name for having those people on stage. And so I would say, man, the people on stage leading your people in worship need to be believers. And man, if there's a good musician out there who doesn't know Jesus, man, invite them to church, befriend them, get to know them, and not because you want them to play on your team, but man, just because that's what we're called to do as Christians and as believers. So, man, invite them to church, let them get to know God and come be a part of your church for a while. And then maybe you have that conversation later on down the road. But the third question I would ask before hiring a musician is, what is their track record of sitting through a church service? And you might be saying, well, why does that matter? Here's why. Because it shows how much they care about getting fed. You do not want to be paying someone who wants to just hang out in the green room and chat every Sunday morning, which I could do a whole nother video on that. But you want to pay someone who is invested in their relationship with God. If they're not sitting through the church service, even if, okay, I see this all the time and it drives me absolutely crazy. Even if they're sitting in a green room in your church that has a TV with the sermon on, I don't like it, because they're still able to talk with the other team members during the service, and they're separating themselves from the body of Christ. And for me, it's a big thing to see my worship team sitting out with their families and being a part of the congregation, not being a separate entity. And so to me, that is huge. I want to see what their track record is in sitting through a service. Now, some of you guys may be asking, well, what do you do at Evergreen Church? And so I'll tell you, we actually do not pay our musicians. I would rather have investment in our team and our church, rather than bringing people in to help lead that couldn't care less about our people. I want our team to be fully invested in the ministry that we're doing. And so I don't want people from the outside that could care less about our people here. And so I want them to be part of the church. We do, however, at our church, we do pay a pianist. And this goes with a decades-old tradition of churches paying pianists to be available for weddings, funerals, and Sunday mornings. And we have a pianist on our team who is all in. I mean, she's all in with our worship team. She's all in with our church. And she does an incredible job, and she's available for those things that I just listed. And we don't pay her much. I wish we could, but we don't. But we do want to compensate her for the time and effort that she puts in. And so, yeah, I mean, there are many churches that there's just a tradition that goes back decades of people paying their pianist. And so we've kept in line with that, and it's not a biblical standard. It's just it's helpful to have somebody that you can rely on and count on if those type of events are happening. And so we pay a pianist here at the church. And so, but we do not do that with the rest of the team. And like I said, that pianist, she is 100% bought into our vision and our values as a worship team. And we made sure that before we decided to pay her. And so, so that's all I've got for today. But I would have just answered this question with a simple no. Do not pay your musicians. But I think it is a little more, there's a little more that goes into it than that, because I can understand, like, if you are struggling to find a good drummer or whatever, and there may be benefit in that, but still, to me, it would be worth it to go without a drummer for 6 months or a year or 2 years, rather than compromising, bringing somebody in and they don't fit the culture of the church or the team, and ultimately they end up being a bad, I don't know what the word is, but being bad for the team ultimately. And so I would rather not pay anybody and have that spot void than bringing somebody in and it ultimately being a bad situation. And so this is my opinion. This is not a biblical standard that I can find in the Bible, but I believe these are some good questions to ask before considering that. So hope you enjoyed this. Hope it was beneficial for you. Join us next week. Thanks.